Hello, WorldPen fans. Today we're going to be looking at this second problem among new writers, namely inaccurate maps. As any fantasy writer knows, drawing the map for your book or your series, it can be one of the most interesting and exciting parts of doing it. I know that I like doing maps, and so I'm sure that you guys like doing maps too for your works. And even if it's not fantasy or sci-fi, even if it's set in an urban setting or something like that, I can still see maps being done that where buildings are, where skyscrapers are, where the important places are, and this can all be really fun. And besides which, we've all seen Tolkien's epic maps and dreamed of making more maps like this. And so I've decided to draw my own map for this presentation. So we've got a forest, we have a desert, hey, we even have some cities here, some capital cities, and of course the standard evil empire that absolutely has to be any fantasy novel with a Dark Lord who never does anything but shows up for the big revelation at the end of the book, because obviously that's the only way to do fantasy. Anyways, we always want to name cities, so we can call them names like, I guess we can call this Vile, because we always need to make some random unpronounceable names for our fantasy novels, and definitely some that have the little dots here because that makes it look like you really have a good language. Anyway, so there's a map, right? First of all, let's get rid of the ridiculous notion that this is all in the map. We've all seen the stories. The heroes are just traipsing through pasture after pasture without really seeing anyone, because of course it's just wide open country. No one lives in it, right? Not quite. Real demographics are nothing like that. Italy in 1000 AD may have had an estimated 40 million people, which may have meant a village every 4 miles in the countryside. You're not going to be going through open pasture for miles on end without seeing anyone, because obviously all that land is going to have to be farmland, and there's going to be villages dotting the horizon. So let's look at this realistically for a moment. When you've got heroes traveling, let's say they're going from the capitals of Vili to go take down the evil empire. They're not just going to wander haphazardly down here and then eventually get here and not meet anyone, since they didn't meet in the main cities. No, there's going to be lots of little cities all around the map, little towns, even some villages, even things that aren't on the map, and they're going to be able to see all of them, and they're going to be meeting people. They're going to be seeing shepherds, they're going to be seeing farmers, but either way, it's not going to be just a carefree journey down a countryside. They're going to meet people, and if they don't, well, that really isn't very realistic. Second lesson to learn. Please pay attention to the distances. Pay careful attention to how many miles apart things are, like how many miles apart this city is from this, or this capital is from this, and make it consistent in your book. Have actual distances and actually know how many days it's going to take them to get there realistically. We don't want it to take them, let's say, 2 weeks to get from here to here, and then only 1.5 weeks to get from here to here, because obviously these two cities are a lot closer together than the capital cities. So what I encourage you to do when you do your map is to use a pen, use a ruler, and figure out the distances, and figure out that an inch equals 10 miles, or an inch equals 20 miles, or something like that, and then use a ruler to measure out the distances. See how much a person can travel in the day. There's lots of good statistics online. But anyways, you need to look at the distances, figure out the miles, and then from the realistic part of it, then figure out how long it's going to take them to get there. If you want it to take longer, move the cities farther apart, make an inch equals 20 miles instead of 10 miles, but do something, but please keep it accurate. Third problem is randomly placed maps. I mean, this is one of the main problems with the map of John here. I mean, look, we've got this random desert here. It's just next to another random forest. Okay, this doesn't make sense realistically. If you have a desert, chances are it's formed because you've got a big mountain range on the one side of it that's going to obscure the cover so that it can't get rained upon. So we put little mountains there, and then this is beginning to look more realistic since the mountains are going to keep it from coming into the desert. However, you also are not going to have a forest just next to a desert. Try to give some intermediate stuff, like maybe some pasture land, because it doesn't just go instantly from a desert to a forest. It doesn't work that way in the real world, and so it shouldn't work that way in your book. Anyways, I hope you've had fun learning about maps with me today. Making maps for either a fantasy novel or sci-fi or even a real-life novel can be really fun and really helpful to the book if you keep it realistic. Keep it realistic, and that will add a lot of good things to your writing.